Hi guys, Holly with Kateri Designs here. Today I thought it'd be fun to do a basic ring using some of the crystals I got yesterday. And so we're just going to do a simple 4x4 like I have on my finger here. Basically it just means 4 on the bottom of your base and 4 on the top. This one has 4 Czech crystals and 4 Swarovski crystals on top. And this is a 11-0, where we go, there we go, 11-0 Mayuki seed bead ladder stitched band, and I used 5 beads to make that band. So we're just going to do that. You can see some of the other rings that we can do. These are the ones that are for sale on Kateri Designs. This is a very Christmassy color, so you can mix your colors and not just do a straight one color if you want. Just whatever your creativity comes up with. This is all Swarovski. As far as the crystals, but you can do all crystals, or you can do all pearls, your crystal pearls if you want to, or you can do stones and crystals like this one here. And I even did one with real pearls. These are real freshwater pearls. They're dyed purple and then the regular color that they come in. So but this is also, you can see I really like this ladder stitched band. It's a really sturdy band. It's my favorite one because it lasts better than the others. And here's the one that I did with just like I wore yesterday in the film. This is just all Swarovski crystal too. It's very sparkly. So I thought we'd use some of the new beads I got. I'm using the Swarovski on the base. I'm using Swarovski lavender, a lavender color. And this new one is the Crystal Vega, the 3mm. And then I am using Mayuki 11-0 gunmetal, and they're delicatas. And so you're also going to need some monofilament, or aka fishing line. Pull back out of here. I like to use spider wire. It's a really good monofilament. It's really inexpensive compared to the monofilament for beading. This is the same thing. It's no different. It's just a lot cheaper, and this lasts a long time. I have the same spool I've had for 5 years, and I've made a ton of rings, as you can see on the design page. I've made a ton of rings with this, and I'm still not out. I had bought this thinking I was going to run out, and I still haven't run out yet. But it's the 8-pound fluorescent clear blue, which is basically clear. I mean, you can see here it's just very clear, and it works awesome. It's great because you can wash your hands with this when you're using this line. If you use this line to do the band. The band is made with wildfire. On the ones I'm doing now, it's made with wildfire thermally bonded beading thread, and it's a 10-pound test. It's the 0.006 or 0.15mm, whichever. I'm using the black color because we're using darker beads, but you can still wash your hands, without taking off the ring. With this, I wouldn't do it very often because when thread starts getting wet, even thermally bonded thread, it can get yucky, and it's best just to take off the ring. But when the ring is made with the monofilament in full, even including your band, like this one was, you can wash your hands with it. It's just the crystals and the stones, especially if you have hard water, it can get ruined, but it doesn't hurt to get wet. It just prefer not to. Anyway, so you're gonna need that, and you're gonna need a beading thread of any kind, that as long as it can get through your 11-0s. This is a big eye needle, and I like it very much because it's easy to thread, and I can go back and forth. When I start getting really low on the thread, I can go back and forth without having to restring my thread. So you want 4 large, these are 4mm, these are 3mm. You're going to need 4 of a larger bead and 4 of a smaller bead. So you have the offset there. Any kind you want. If you want stones, if you want crystals, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. If you use roundels, it's going to be very difficult to bead with them like that, that would be the only shape I'd say not to go with. But even you could see on the actual real, these are real pearls, I used a flatter, kind of a rounder shape to do that, and it worked out very, oh sorry, this wasn't the one. On this one you can see they're kind of a flat, almost on the bottom part of them, and so they worked out well. So, grabbing the wrong ring there. All right, some people like to color their ends to trick, you know, other YouTubers have shared to do. For time's sake, I'm not going to color these right now because it's not going to take very long to get the base done. As I said, you'll need about 12 inches for beginners. As you get better at this, you won't need as much, but we're just going to go with 12 inches to start with. You're going to put on an 11-0, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see me better here. Just over here just a little bit. There we go. All right, so we're going to go with the 11-0 and a 4mm, an 11-0, a 4mm, an 11-0, and a 4mm, an 11-0. Okay, and this is what we have here. Let's see if we can get it to focus. My autofocus isn't working very well. Okay, and then I'm going to take my last 4mm and I'm going to cross through that. Let me see. I don't have my glasses on, so it's hard to see. Okay. All right, so we're just going to take the ends, we're going to match them together. If I can get the end here. There we go. And we're going to match them together so they're even, or relatively even. And then we're just going to pull this bead down all the way. And we have this. Okay, now for me this is probably the most simplest part of it. So I'm going to take our ring, and it doesn't matter if it flips on you, I'm just flipping it over because it's easier for me because I'm right-handed. And I'm going to take 2 of my seed beads, my 11-0 seed beads on each side. And you can use any colors you want. You can mix them up. You saw the Christmas ring I made. You can get really, really creative with this. And then I'm going to put a 3mm on each side. And these are my Crystal Vegas. And then I'm going to cross through my 11-0 on one side. And it's been a little bit since I've made a ring, so my hands are a little shaky right now. All right, so now we're just going to go and do what we just did, but backwards. So we're going to start with a 2, or with 1 3mm on each side. And when you're working with your monofilament and you're going to be doing the whole band and everything, I really suggest coloring your ends. It helps a whole lot to see what you're doing. And it works out very well. So, like I said, then we're going to take 2 of the 11-0s on each side. Now, as you're doing this, your ring's going to loosen up. You can see how it's already loosening up down here. So don't worry about that right now. It will tighten up. So now we have this right here. We have those things too here. And then this is where we're at right now. Okay. Let me zoom out just a little bit. So if I come up in here, then you can see that a little bit better. See if it'll autofocus now. I will get better with this camera, I promise. Okay, so now we're gonna cross through our base 4mm, just the 4mm on the opposite side. So we came out of this one, here, and we're gonna go cross through this bottom one here, okay? So as I said, don't worry if if the ring gets real loose, it will tighten up. So we don't want to go through any other bead other than the 4mm. There's one, and I'm not pulling all the way tight just yet because I want to do it evenly. And there's two, and then just pull tight. Now, this is what I have. Now, the Crystal Vega and the lavender are so similar in color. You're not seeing a huge contrast with this, but you can see the contrast with the gunmetal Miyuki beads. And once we're done, you'll see it'll be a lot. The band will help it contrast more. Now the hard part is, and I had to put my glasses on this, is going through the base of the band and tying off my knots. Because I'm not going to use my monofilament for my band. For me, it's too hard to do the ladder stitch with the monofilament. So now when we first made the ring, we had the 4mm and then 11/0, 4mm, 11/0. So we're only going to go through those 11/0s. Don't go through the ones that go up to the top of the ring. And that's where it gets a little tricky for some. Don't worry about it getting loose on you because we're going to tighten it up. Now we're coming out here, that's on both sides here. I'm going to work my way around to here, and where I'm going to tie off my knot and then pop my knot in here. And then work my way back around to this side and clip off my, my leftover. And that way the band is nice and secure, or the base is nice and secure, and we end up putting our band on the opposite sides where we don't have any knots and we don't have any ends. So, but we have to get over there for now. So let's get this, as I say, let's get this party started. And get over there. Sometimes you'll get lucky and it'll go through your beads all at the same time. Now I'm only going through on this side, I'm only going through to right before this bead, because I'm going to tie my knot and then I'm going to pop my knot back into this bead so it'll be hidden. You know how I feel about knots and string showing. So now on this side, I'm going to go meet up with it, making sure I don't go through my top, my 11/0s. I want to stay on the base of my ring 11/0. So I'm going to go over to this side, and these are tiny beads, so it's hard not to cover it up what I'm doing. Alright, so now I've got this 11, see I almost went through this one here which doesn't go to that, it goes to the top of the ring, so I have to make sure and kind of move it out of the way. And it's really flexible right now, so you can just move it out of the way. And I just move that 11/0, and I can get through. If I work this right, there we go, I can get it right through both of them at the same time. Okay, now I'm meeting up with this other string. Now this is why I said don't worry about this being loose. It's very loose right now. I'm about to tie knots, and it's going to make it really tight. So you don't want to tie your knot where it goes over the top of your Miyuki bead. And if you stay to the lower end of your string, it usually won't. So I'm staying down here while I'm tying these knots. Down at the lower end, I'm going to come down here while I'm tying it, and see I'm sticking with this here, and it just tied that knot right between the Miyuki and this right here. Now that's the first knot. I'm going to do one more, and I'm only going to do one more on this one because this is monofilament, and it will stay. It won't slip like your stretchy material. The other reason is these are 4mm, and they won't take a much bigger knot. The knot won't go in. So I'm just going to slowly come down here, make sure I don't go over the top of my bead, and stay right where I want to between the Miyake and the crystal, which it did. Tied it. Now, I'm going to look at my ring, and my strings are going to want to go their own way. Okay, so I have a string that's popping to the top, a string that's going to the bottom, but more towards this bead. This is the one I'm going to stick through. Hold the other one out of the way. I'm going to stick this through, back through that crystal. And because the ring is now tight, you have to finagle it a little bit to get it to go through the hole. Now, when you pull on this, you're going to feel it pop into the hole of this. It's not real hard. It's just a little tiny pop. And it's in there. It's set in there. Okay? And then I'm going to go all the way back over to this other side, and I'm going to clip off on this side. And this ring is easy. It's hard to do at first, especially with the smaller beads. You might want to do with a larger bead to start with to get used to doing it. And this, especially when you have a clear crystal, this is where it would be really a lot easier if I had this, if I had my ends colored. You just take a Sharpie or a paint pen or nail polish even, and coat the end of your line so you can see what you're doing. And I'm trying to get through this hole here. So I might be covering up my camera with my finger. There we go. Okay, so I'm right here, and I need to go through this one last bead and stop at the crystal right here. Here's my other end. The knot's in here, and I want to end in here on this side. Let me see. Yeah, I'm going to have to go through each one. It's not going to let me go through both beads. That happens sometimes. Okay, this is also why I said it's a lesson in patience. And then when you do it, you're not trying to rush, and you just do it slowly. It is very relaxing. Now make sure when you go through this, you have to maybe move the seed beads out of the way to get your bead in the your string through just the bead. And I'm having a little bit of a difficult time. Because it's wanting to go through more than one bead. So when you have that, you just can move your base around a little bit. Don't worry about it. You can fix it. And once your band is on, it won't move. See, it just went through just this crystal. And that's where I want it to end. And I'm not going to cut it off just yet because I want to get both through there. And so if I cut it off now and I put the other end through the other end, it could possibly kick this part out, and then I'm having to try to fish it back through again. So here's this other side that we need to get to that other end. And you can just hold the string with the other finger. So I'm going to go through the seed bead, and if it's like my knot's still, so I'm going to pull just a little bit, my knot's not quite where I want it. Alright, so you're going to go through your seed bead here. I need to use my fingernail to get that up there. See, it didn't want to go through. There we go. I got through both of them. And then I'm going to go through this next seed bead and then this crystal here. I'm going to hold my other string out of the way. Get my end. And this is a little bit difficult because I'm trying to make sure I stay in the camera and see what I'm doing. Okay, this little seed bead here is a little bit buried, so I'm going to move that out of the way. There we go. Get to my end. Excuse the background noise, my kids are playing with the dog. Okay, sorry about that. Had to go off camera there for a minute. Was having an issue with that seed bead, and so I just took my, and I probably should have showed this, but I just took my beading needle and I went through it with the beading needle. You just can, the monofilament is of this size is just small enough to go through that and do that. You can use beading needles with the monofilament. It depends on the size. It also depends on the size of the bead. But I needed to get my bead, my needle up underneath that bead that just would not give in. It was, you know, crunched down in here. So as I said, it doesn't matter. This ring looks a little distorted as we're going right now. It'll pop back into place. It's part of the reason why I did this ring. It's very simple and it's very forgiving. It's a good beginner ring. Okay, so now that I'm coming out of both of my, have both my strings coming out the base of this side, my knot is in this side, and I'm going to use both these sides to use for my band. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip off these ends, and how I like to do that, because I don't like anything showing, as you know, I'm just going to take my scissors. Now these happen to be surgical scissors that I got from someone who no longer used them anymore. Anyways, and so they're stainless steel, but they're real good because they have a little bit of a curve on them. You can use sewing scissors. They have some that have an actual, or actually mustache scissors, have a curve to them too. And I'm just going to place this right in here, and I'm going to pull my ring up against that, and I'm going to use the scissors like a cutting tool and just pull that back, and that will stretch the band, or stretch the thread just a little bit, enough to cut it off flush without me having to try to get in there and scratch my crystal and do that. Now just pull it in, and you can save these ends. These are actually not, this one is not that long, but I could actually, with a smaller, if I did all 3mm, which I've done for children's rings, you could actually use that for a base, but that's up to you. Okay, so now we have our base ring, and it's a little bit out of shape here because I've been pulling on it and twisting on it. So normally with I wanted this top part to stand up more. That's why I used 2 of the Miyuki beads. If you don't want it to stand up as much, you just use 1 if you want it to sit more flush. Now this is a smaller ring. You can see that's a small base. This can be used for a child's ring or a small pinky ring. These smaller beads, some people like the really delicate ones. These are made with, this is 6mm and 4mm. So it just depends on what you want to use. So to make our band, we're going to need about an arm's span worth of the fire line. So I just basically take this out, stretch my arms out till I have enough that's the length of both my arms, cut it off, and we'll start there. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. So I have taken my thread and I've strung it onto 2 beading needles, 1 on each end, and I've put it through my free end of my crystal on one side. And in case you lose your place, just use your needle to test through, to put it through and see if you have any resistance, and you can find where you're at. So I've got about 8 inches on one side of this string onto my left, and this is my right, and so I have the rest of the line onto my right. So we're going to put 3 beads on each end, and then slide those down, and then I'm going to take on my left string, I'm going to take 5 more, and this is going to be the base of our band. the 5 beaded ladder stitch. Now you can use 3 or 4, and you can use different colors if you want. You can do whatever you want to do. But there's 5 of those on there. You can see them on there. So I'm going to take those down, and I don't have to go all the way down with this. I just want to put them in where they're in my finger. And I want to take my finger, I'm going to wrap my thread just slightly, just so I can put my needle through it. However it's easiest for you to do, we're basically crossing our needles through these 5 beads. And I really like working when I'm doing the beading because it's hard for me to see. I really like using the needles. And you're just going to pull, you're going to hold them as you pull, because you don't want to pull the other string, your shorter string, all the way through. Otherwise it'll shorten it up, and you don't want that to happen. Okay, now I've got that there. I'm going to pull my other shorter string all the way through here, and then I'm going to come and I'm going to pull them both together. Okay, now I have my shorter string on to my right side, and my longer string is on my left side. So this is where it gets a little bit a little bit more difficult or challenging. But if you just do it slowly and be patient with yourself, you can do it. Now, I want to keep this string taut. It does not want to, you don't want it to become loose. Okay, so I'm going to wrap the short string around my finger nice and tight. And I'm going to hold it with my finger once I get it there. Hold on. Don't wrap up your ring, just wrap up this band, wrap up the thread. And then I'm going to hold that with my finger. I'm going to take my other string, okay, and make sure that's tight. I'm going to pull that up. Now I'm going to back stitch. This is where, if you've sewn before, this will help you. Once you get through your first set, and you we basically tie it down, so to speak, it will become easier as you start stitching up more and more. And you can actually watch TV and do it at the same time. I'm going to take my first bead on my finger, and then I'm going to move my string back a little bit. Okay, I want to be able to get, I'm going to go back through this first bead in line. This is my left hand. This is the long string, and I'm going backwards through, and it's a backward stitch. I'm back stitching, and this is called the ladder stitch. Well, okay, and you're gonna pull it nice and tight, and you see how that ends up right there. Let's see if I can get it to zoom in here. Move my other needle out of my hand. See how that came in nice and pretty? It's up on nice and tight. If it doesn't do that, you just pull it until it does, and sometimes you can just take your fingernail and just move it around and then pull it till it does. Sometimes it doesn't want to do what you want it to do. Okay. And then, let me see. I'm trying not to get caught up in my camera here. So, sorry, I don't need that bead yet. I'm telling you what I'm doing. I didn't, okay. Now, we've gone through, we've added that bead on, and now I'm going to pull back through here. I'm going to back stitch through this upper bead that we just put on. If I can see what I'm doing. It's a lot easier when I'm not looking through the camera. Okay. And then it's going to keep pulling our string. And it's a little bit, like I said, a little bit difficult when we first start because we have so much string and we're trying to keep everything tight. Okay. If it gets a little bit loose, it's not that big of a deal because as we tie it down, we get this the second row on here, and we're going to tighten it up. But you don't want it to have too much slack in it. Otherwise, it will be loose and it will not look good. So keep an eye on it. Make sure it doesn't get too loose. If it does, just re-tighten up your strings. So that was our first bead. I'm going to do our second bead. And what I like to do, I use my fingernails a lot. And that's another reason why I like this big eye needle. It has a flat tip so I can kind of get between these beads. Let's see here. Okay. Because I'm trying to do it, it's going to give me a hard time. I'm also reaching around the camera, so hold on a second. Let me see if I can do it better this way. And it's okay that this got a little loose because I'm trying to get this other in here. So, there we go. And it's going through both of them. There we go. See? All right. It's a lot harder to try to film it than it looks. See, now I've gotten loose. See how loose that got? So I'm going to have to fix that in just a minute. So I'm putting that one bead on there, and see how it's not really wanting to go on there nice and straight. Just going to pop that on there. I'm going to push this back through there. And then I'm going to tighten everything. This is more, see how loose that got in there? How loose it got over here. Now this is where you just have to kind of hold it and pull. You can use your fingernail to keep the beads in place and pull. That's why I like this thermal weave, because it really is so strong. It doesn't fray. And it doesn't come apart. Now see how nicely that went back on there? So I'm going to move my string that I'm working with out of the way. I'm going to reset. I'm going to reset this shorter string on my finger. If you have sensitive hands, you might want to try a different way. You might be able to use a clip to help you with that. My hands are more numb than they're anything, so this doesn't affect me as much. So, all right, so now I'm ready for the third one. Okay, that's my working string. It's just getting in the way there. Okay, and I'm going to take my ring here. And these beads are so tiny. Okay, it's wanting to go through. You kind of have to feel your way through it. And pull your string, hold on to it. Use your fingernails if you have them. Use your fingers if you don't have fingernails. Just use them a lot. See, I'm already getting slack in here again. And I'm going to push this back through here. And this first line is, like I said, this, you have your base row, and then this is the first real row. So I just pulled on that tight. Okay. And this just came loose, that's all. So I'm going to pull on it again. Get my other line out of the way. Pull on it again. Try to come up to my finger as much as I can and get this on there so it doesn't come off. And there we go. Okay, the key to this is to keep this nice and tight. Once you get this first row going, as I said, once you get going on the rows, you can watch TV and do this. Hold on, I need to come through. We're gonna run the camera here. This is a little bit more difficult for me right now because I don't have my glasses over on my eyes because I'm filming, so it's more difficult to see what I'm doing with the camera and my glasses on. So I'm basically not seeing very well, more feeling what I'm doing. So there we go. Get that on there, hold on to it. And then go back through that bead. We're gonna have one more to put on. And I'll show you how to hold that, once you get this on, how you're gonna hold that row down. See, it's not too much right there. It's still good. and this last one is easier. I'm going to say that and it won't be easy, but it's easier to get it on. Okay, so pull that through and then put your string through it. Make sure when you're putting the string through, it doesn't go through the string on your fingers. I've done that. When you mess up on the ladder stitch, it does take a little bit to get it unmessed up. It is best to check your tension constantly because it can get away from you, and then the ring does not look as pretty. That you don't have that nice, pretty, smooth pattern. Okay, so you can see how right here I've got some slack going on. I'm going to hold both those ends. I'm going to pull both those ends because we still have just one row. It's easier to do that. Don't worry about it looking a little bit off. It's gonna get, we're gonna fix that. Okay, so I'm gonna use my working string, put that out of the way. I'm gonna take my shorter string, and I'm coming out of the bottom row here, and I'm gonna just go through the top row, make sure it goes through all of those beads. And I think I'm gonna have to put my glasses on just so I can see and keep in frame here. So, all right, so you're gonna wanna go through all of these beads here, if it wants to let you do that. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna pull on those two. Okay, now, keeping our working string out of the way, and if you want to put a clip on it to remind you or whatever, it's fine. I'm used to doing this, so I don't need one. Now we're gonna go back through down here, the space row here. Make sure you go through every bead. Don't miss one. And you can actually flip it and check to make sure you don't see. See, I missed a bead. See? So you want to go through every bead you have, and then you're gonna flip it to make sure you got through every one. And I did. There's no, I don't see my my needle. Pull through. Okay, again, take both lines, take your fingernail right up against those beads and pull tight. Move your line, move your working line out of the way again. And I'm gonna come through here and I'm gonna reinforce these beads here. There's 3 here. I'm going to go through my, don't go to the seed bead, just go through the 3 seed beads that are attaching your band, and then through your seed bead, or your crystal, and then make sure you skip that seed bead. You don't want to go through that one. Pull through, and pull it tight, and then go up through your 3 here. See, make sure you get those 3 on there. Okay, and then go through your base again. Make sure you get all 5 of them. And the best way to check that is to flip it to make sure you don't see your needle sticking out where it's not supposed to. It needs to go through all 5. Okay, so I'm putting that through. Got all 5. I get a little pull a little tight. Gonna go back through my bottom. So go through those seed beads again. Pull tight. Now we're gonna do something different. We're gonna go through the crystal right here and pull. Okay, now we're coming out of the crystal and we're going to bring this around to the other side of the ring because we're not going to work with this string anymore. So we're going to get it out of the way and we're going to use it to help us tie off the ring later. So take it through the base. This is our base row again. Remember our base, there's our base 4 seed beads and our 4 4mm crystals. It's going to take it through that seed bead and that crystal if you can get it through. Remember, there's a knot in one of those, so it might be harder to get it through. Be more gentle so we don't knock the knot out. And then go through that seed bead. That seed bead and that crystal. Just the crystal. Not the seed bead on the other side. And we're going to remove our needle so we don't hurt ourselves later. Just put it into your pad or wherever. And then we have just, make sure you don't get your line into a knot, which I just did. I'm about to get it into a knot. I'm just going to drop this back through so it's not in a knot. Okay. There we go. All right. So this is our base. We're starting off. We have our other string out of the way. Again, you can take a clip and hang it to the bottom and it makes it dangle down, or just kind of use your finger to help it stay out of the way. And we're going to go back and forth. You're always going to have your working string to your left or to your right, whichever side you work with. You want your working side to the furthest point because you're going to start on this end always. So as we go and finish the line, we're going to flip back and forth to keep that line on this side. So since I'm left-handed, or excuse me, right-handed, I'm going to keep it on my left side. So let's start again. I'm going to do a couple of rows, and then we'll, for time's sake, we'll come back and show you what we're finished. So I'm going to add in that first row. As I told you, it's going to get easier to do as you get going. Pull through. Now, see this, how it popped right into place, right perfectly? That's why I like the Miyuki. It's a beautiful, it's cylindrical in shape. It makes a beautiful band. And so we want to keep good tension. Sorry, I keep hitting the camera stand here. We want to use good tension on this. So you want to make sure you're pulling tight, because sometimes your line, and it's good sometimes just to move it all the way down so it doesn't get in the way. Your line can get caught up underneath the bead underneath it if you're not careful when you're trying to pull it through, and you'll end up with string sticking out. So just pay attention as you go along. It's fun once you get used to it. It's more difficult because to begin with, it takes a little bit more dexterity, which I don't have a lot of anymore, but that's why I like doing this, because it challenges me to try. So, but I literally, I haven't made a ring, I think, in about 4 months. So it's been a while for me. And just take it, go through, and push it through. Oop, I'm off camera here. Push it through that bead there. And pull. And add another one on. And as I said, once you get used to it and get going and get the feel for it, you'll be able to do this much faster. And so let's see. See how nice, and I'm keeping my tension, I'm pulling on it, but when I pull on it, I'm holding it. I'm not just pulling on the string. And it's much easier, as I said, once you get that base 2 rows done, to get your needle through these beads. My string is getting attached. Hold on, let me get my rings off. The string is attaching itself to my other rings. It's getting caught up on it. Okay. And so you pull that through. And push it back. And And the string's still really long, so I have to do a lot of pulling, so it's taking me a little bit longer. I had to move something out of the way. Make sure when you're doing this you have a clear workspace so you don't knock things over. Okay, so we have our last one going in here, and see that, and then just right back through the bead we just attached. Okay. Now, pull that nice and tight. Okay? See how that's coming along? Now, as we get going, the band will do like this band is. See how nice and tight that band is and how uniform it is? It looks a little bit discombobulated right now because it's just the first few rows. And as you get going and you keep your tension tight, it will get better. And when once you attach it to the ring, it'll be better. Also, my fingers have been all over these crystals. You see how shiny they still are? That's why it's a good quality. It's good to use good quality, but you know, it's also nice to be able to afford it. So that's why I like these Czech crystals that I found. They really seem to be holding up well alongside the Swarovski. All right, so I'm going to do one more row, and then I'm going to get to my length. And what you're going to do is you're just going to hold it to whatever finger you want it on. You're going to hold it, and you're going to get the band to wrap around to right before, see how these 3 beads are? To give yourself a maybe, you know, a 1/4 of an inch to make up that difference to the size you want. And then you're going to have those 3 beads. And I'll come back when we close that off. I'll do one more row, and then we'll finish off our ring and then come back, just to save some time. Okay, so I just ended this row. See where my string is? I'm not going to come over the top of it and start here. I have to flip my ring because I'm starting here. So this is where this ladder stitch is. We're just going to keep going, and as we get going, it's going to get easier and easier to do. And add it on there. I think it's so tight I can't get it in there. There we go. You got to be careful that you don't go through the bead behind, you know, the second bead, the other bead that's next to it. You have to just go through that one bead. And we have just 2 more. Hang on here. Okay, last one. Okay, now I'm gonna grab it, take my fingernail right up against it, grab it, and pull tight. When you do that, you're helping it stay uniform, like this ring here. You're helping this stay uniform. Sorry, I'm getting out of my range here. And you're keeping the tension even, so you're gonna have this beautiful, beautiful band that's gonna last you. Even if this end here breaks, this won't. I mean, you'd have to cut it in half with scissors to get it to break. That's how tight and good it is. But so, okay, so we just ended here. This is when you finished. Flip your ring over and do the same thing. Just back stitch, adding one on and then coming back through, just like we just did. Repeat this until you get it to the length you want. I'd say, I think there's, you know, maybe 30, 35 rows. I'm not sure. But there's a lot. But the best thing to do is depend upon the finger you want to wear this on. Is the length that you want to go around. Like I said, you want to put it on here. The length of it goes around till you're about 1/4 of an inch from where you want it. So you have room for these 3 beads to go on. And then we'll come back and we'll add that on there. All right. Hi, and we're back. So I have finished stitching out my band. And I've gotten it to the length that I want to have it, where I leave just enough room for these 3 beads on each side on this side, so we match. It's going to be, you can see how I wrapped it around my finger, and I left just enough room to make that happen. Oh, I'm off there. Made just enough room to make that happen. And the actual length from tip to tip is about 2 inches, and that would be about a small size 6. So I'm going to show you how to close this off and bring it together, and we're going to finish this ring. So I'm ending on this side, and I'm going to come in, and don't worry about this string here right now. We're going to keep this out of the way for now. We're just going to go right past it until we get to where we want to get. So I'm going to gather 3 beads, excuse me, going off camera here a little bit. Move this in just a little bit here. Okay, so I'm going to get 3 seed beads. They want to cooperate. I'm going to go through just the crystal portion, not, I'm going to just bring it up here so you can see, and I can see better. And move that out of the way here. Just the crystal. And try to, you have to kind of work it around that little seed bead there. Just wanting to hang up on the, okay, and it also got a little bit of my string. That's what I was hanging on. Okay, so if that does that, you just pull this string back this way. And that will happen. It's part of creating. Okay, so pull that in, and I'm going to pull this out of the way. I'm going to pull that through here, and it's going to pull my loop up. At this point, it's a good thing just to try, just to give yourself a little, you know, reassurance it's going to fit the way you want it to. And that, for me, is going to be a perfect fit. So I'm going to take this off. Now that I've come through here, get our ring out of the way, get our other string out of the way, I'm going to grab another 3. Okay. And I'm going to come through my first row here, or my last row actually, here. Remember what I said about checking to make sure you got every bead in that needle. And I'm going to close this off. Okay. And I'm going to pull it snug. Okay. You can also test out at this point whether or not it's something that you know, if it's the size that you want. Now we're just going to reinforce the ring. We're done with our seed beads. Move these little ones out of the way so they don't get knocked off and lost. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up in through here and I'm going to meet with the string. And in order to get the string out of my way, I'm going to tie it off. Some people wait till the very end to do that, but it actually, for me, it's easier to do it in the beginning. Let's see. There we go. Because you can see how confusing it can get. Okay, so I'm at the crossroads of these three beads here, these 3 seed beads, and this crystal. I'm not in the base seed bead that comes right next to the crystal. I'm just in these 3 seed beads that are attaching the band. So, and I'm right next to the crystal. So I'm gonna take my strings and I'm gonna tie a double knot. And I'm gonna make sure that it doesn't go on that seed bead, which it didn't. Okay, that's good. Do another one. Let's get that double knot in there. Make sure it does not go in that seed bead, which it did not. Okay. Now, one of the things I can do is I can take this string and take it back over here and start coming down this side to get it out of the way. Or I can wait till I'm done reinforcing this ring and then do it again and reinforce it down this way. So because I'm going to do a lot of back and forth over here, I'm just going to take it back over here and reinforce it this way. And so I'm going to put that other band or other needle back on. See how nice it is to do those big-eyed needles. It's just no time at all whatsoever. Okay, so I'm going to take, because this string, we come through this way. Remember when we brought it back through to get it out of the way, we came through and we stopped here. So if I put it back through here, I'm just pulling it back and loosening it up. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to come through here and I'm going to have to work around that knot because the knot's in this one. Pull through, and not too hard because I don't want to pull the knot I just put in this string through those little seed beads. Okay, and then I'm going to go through this seed bead and this one right here, but not the one that's right there, just a crystal. I'm going to pull that, and then I'm going to come down through my band attachment, and I'm just going to reinforce this string. This third one's not. Okay. How it happened? There we go. See, I wanted to. My string got away from me. And it's still getting away from me. There we go. Okay. Now, I'm just going to do a little reinforcing on this side. And I'm going to double check the under part of my ring to make sure that the whole needle went through it, and it did. And then I'm going to put it through there. I'm just going to go down a couple of them because I'm going to do the other, I'm going to use the main one to reinforce the ring. Okay. Now remember how I told you that this band, the color of this band would really make this ring pop? You can see how really pretty those colors, which would have been drowned out by a lighter band, with the darker band, just are really standing out very pretty. And I need a new set of glasses. So I'm having a hard time. Okay. Checking it, making sure. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and cut off this excess because I'm going to work with my working string. I just wanted to get this one out of the way. Same thing that you did with the crystal when you cut off the crystal. The thing with the crystal, just use your scissors like almost like a knife and just pull the string through it so it's flush. You end up with the flush and you don't see the string hanging out. Okay, so we're back to our working side, and we just tied the knot and took the other string the other way. We're going to take this string and we're going to go this way with it because that was the way we were going to begin with. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and pull that knot through. Now, the only difficult thing about doing a light colored ring with a dark band is you have to give up something. You have to decide if you want to see white thread and no thread through your where you attach your band, or if you want to use dark thread and then see a little bit of dark thread through the lighter crystal. So it's kind of up to you and how you like, your jewelry and what you want to do, but it's kind of a give and take when you're using contrasting colors. Okay, so we went through this crystal and I got the knot in there just a little, so I'm going to just go ahead and go down through these 3 beads here that attach my band, and I'm going to start zigzagging back and forth to reinforce my band. Sorry, I pulled my whole ring off camera here. Alright, so now that we have that, we're just going to go back and forth through the thing, through the beads. And you can kind of feel them, and you keep your finger back behind it, you can feel it if it doesn't go through it like it's supposed to. Sorry about hitting that camera. And this is also a great spot to where if some of your beads aren't laying like they're supposed to, this reinforcement helps it to lay right. You got to pull, you have to keep your tension. And I'm going to check that because it kind of felt funny, but nope, I got it. And let's see. It's not wanting to go through. There we go. It kept wanting to untuck itself from the bead underneath it. And I'm going to go to about the same spot that I stopped with the other line, and the reason is I don't want to push the thread from the other line out of the ring. Let's see. Okay, this one is being difficult. It's like getting tumblers on a lock to align themselves. There we go. Sometimes they're more difficult than others. Sometimes it's not as hard as all that. So here we go. I'm off camera here. I don't know how long I've been off camera. I'm sorry. Alright, let's see. Yeah, I think I'm going the wrong way. Oh, nope, that was the wrong way. And you can tell that because the string came out when I put it in there. Okay. I do that sometimes. I will forget where I'm at and I go back the wrong way, but the ring will tell me where I'm at. Okay, I'm gonna stop in a couple more spots, and sorry, you can hear my dog's tail hitting the wall. German Shepherds, you gotta love them. Okay, and we're almost there. And let's just make this the last one. And I'm gonna do what I just did with the last one. I'm gonna use my scissors, just like I'm gonna pull my string through a knife. I'm gonna lay it flat, flush up against that ring. I'm gonna pull up and over. And no having to hide a string. And this band, this ladder stitch, I'm telling you, I tried to take one apart one time because I wanted the beads off of it because these Miyuki beads are expensive. It took a good 25 minutes to get them all out of there. I had to cut and pull and cut and pull and cut and pull. This band is not going anywhere. The weakest point is going to be these spots here, but even if they broke, as I said before, you can reattach the ring very easily. So this is how this ring came out with my ring finger. See how it came out? It's so pretty. I haven't even shined it up a little bit because I have my fingerprints all over it. Came out really pretty. Normally would not take this long to do it as the video shows, but it's because we're videotaping. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Go ahead on, if you don't mind, and give me a like. Go on to Facebook at Kateri Designs group page and give us a like. Go to the main Facebook Kateri Designs page, and if you like it, you'll be enrolled for our giveaway and for the African turquoise jewelry set. I hope you have a blessed day.